And it is the regular meeting of the Southborough Library Board of Trustees. And we're waiting for David.
It's okay. I needed a minute or two to put the YouTube.
Okay.
David's coming back on now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So it's, did you put the time for the minutes? 3:02?
3:02, yep.
Yep.
Jane, hi. Oh, she's got her mute on too. All right. David, you're back in with your mute on. And no video.
I'm here.
Hi.
Hey, Jane.
Hello. I am here. I'm here.
Oh, you're in China again.
I'm
This
in
is so
China
nice.
again, yes.
In the terraced mountains.
Yeah.
Well, so
The Olympics build up.
Right.
I
Get in the mood.
do have a treat for you guys.
Oh.
I figured you might want to see how it's going so far.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it looks
very nice.
good.
Looks great.
What a nice choice of color.
Yeah, good
There.
choice.
Sorry, that's the YouTube. Okay, we're all
That's
set on that.
beautiful. Oh, that's John Parent. Thank you. Everybody who worked on this. Thank you. Thank you. Boy, does that look nice and clean.
Mhm.
Clean. Yes.
Well, we like the frog in the boiling water. We'd gotten used to the old carpet.
But it's sad, Jane, but that was one of the goals, was to have a carpet that was clean.
That was carpet with clean. We don't ask for much. Okay, I guess
Can you
we're
guys
all-
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you,
Okay.
David. Here, I'll
I got my name back up and my voice back up. Oh, it's start my video.
There you
go.
Okay. Sorry to hold you up.
No, that's good. And you can see us, right?
Yep, I can see everyone but Kim and Amy.
Right.
Yep. Okay, so good. All right, so our first order of business today is let's review and approve the minutes of November 16th and November 21st. I mean, December 21st. And of course, they're typed funny on the agenda, which means they're typed December 21st, 2022. But that's what everybody does. It's supposed to be 2021. We
That's
I
forget-
had a
David,
couple
my-
of
couple
couple
of
things
typos.
on
Okay,
November.
okay.
When the first one was on the volunteer policy draft under David Eckberg. It says he made motion. I just think you should put in he made a motion.
Okay,
Okay.
And under staff appreciation, it's awkward. It says the date in April. Wait, I'm gonna pull it up here.
Probably be tied to a date in April.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it says they wanted an opportunity to show appreciation to the staff,
mm-hmm.
Okay.
to contribute, to show. It's just awkward. It would include events throughout the week and an opportunity to show appreciation to the staff.
Okay.
Just sounds more.
All right, good. And anything in the December, I mean, that was the November one, right?
That was in November, yes.
Anything in December? Okay.
Ryan, you got the edits that I dropped off for you a few days ago?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
and those have been integrated into the
Yep.
revisions.
Okay,
So we still have to approve with amendments because Jane did find, we've had like a bunch of people look at it and give edits, but the minutes are never done, right, until we're approved. So,
Well, I saw you did it twice and I went back to what I had made notes of and they were still there, so.
yeah, so I would say since I sent it to you guys, like none of them are substantive. Sometimes because like Mariana's typing as you guys are talking on the YouTube, she'll like write it in note form and we try to turn them into full sentences. So that's, I think Jane, you saw a couple of the ones I missed. So
No, that's okay. That's why you
yeah.
ask us to look at it, right?
Exactly. It's a group
exactly.
effort.
I have a
Okay, and-
similar edit for the December 21st one.
Okay,
Okay,
Under roof, the second line, it says, because the leak is due to existing leak, I'd say to an existing leak. That's all. Put the word "an" in.
okay,
That's all I
Mhm.
found.
all right,
the
so,
only edit between the revisions too was it was noted that we spelled Miss Levinson's name wrong in the initial draft. So that was the only change. They looked pretty similar to the ones you had out before that. Do you guys want to wait? So I know you probably will check if anybody else has any edits for November or December, but do you guys want to wait to do the advisory minutes? Because I know you only got those a couple hours ago. We can wait until the February meeting. Do you want to do that?
I think it'd be okay to wait.
Okay, so just to warn you, you're gonna have a joint advisory meeting minutes
Yeah.
in February. You're gonna have joint capital
PC,
committee
yeah.
minutes in February, and then you're gonna have this meeting in February. So we're gonna have to devote a little bit of time for the minutes
You
because
mean
there's been a lot.
January? Oh, you mean discuss them all in February?
Discuss them all in February, yeah, because there will have been multiple joint meetings and then the regular meeting too.
I think that's a better way to proceed. At this point, if we were looking at the joint minutes, it would take us probably 20 minutes to a half an hour to take them
Okay,
apart.
they're only a page, so that's the good news.
I
when you
went through
guys
them
get-
and didn't see anything, but
I've
Yeah.
already gotten a couple suggested edits, so there'll be a revised version that
Alright.
goes out in February. But Jane, you can always do this in the meetings, but you can also send them to me or meet with me if you want. If you want me to do it before I send out the revised ones for the advisory one, because
Right.
we already have some changes we're gonna implement.
Okay, so is everybody okay with holding the joint advisory, the joint capital, and this meetings? I mean, and the regular meetings, the last regular meetings minutes until the next meeting, our next
Yes.
meeting? Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that. So today, do I have a motion to accept with amendments the minutes of the meeting November 16, 2021 and November 21, 2021?
December 21.
December, sorry.
Sorry. to
so
interrupt.
moved. So
Okay,
moved.
and do I have a second? Okay, so
Second,
Janet has moved and Jane has seconded. All right. For our vote, Trustee Davis,
aye.
Trustee Ekberg,
I,
Trustee Landry, aye. Trustee Maney,
Aye.
Trustee Reagan,
Aye.
Trustee Astani.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved as amended. Before we start with the director's report and the expense report, I was talking on the phone with Ryan before this meeting. There are a couple of things on the agenda that are going to be tabled because I think we have a big discussion on the capital planning committee meeting and report. So rather than having this meeting go on for 2.5 hours, I would like to table a couple of items if we could, and maybe shift the sequence around at Ryan's suggestion for what we talk about. I'd like to table the native plant garden update until the next meeting. That is item number 11 on the agenda. Anybody object to tabling that until next meeting? I think, I talked to Freddie, there's not much new happening except that she wants to apply for a grant to clean the stuff out from under the trees, which is what we'd already spoken about. And I said, as far as I could tell, the trustees had discussed it and were in favor of her moving forward to get those weeds and picker bushes out from under the trees on that slot. Is there anybody who objects to tabling this update for right now? Okay.
I don't
and then-
object, and I think we already did talk about the grant, just as you.
Yes,
just
exactly.
said. We
So
didn't-
there's nothing new
Yeah.
right now to,
Where we left it with Freddie, that she was gonna get back to us and send us some additional information about the
Right.
future of the project. So I think Freddie, I realized that probably, especially with people getting ready for budget season and town meeting, that there probably hasn't been time. The ground is still frozen. I don't think there's a rush, but I think
Right.
prior to February, I will, because that's only in a couple weeks, I'm just gonna reach out and see if Freddie's ready to send the information she talked about for the next
Right.
meeting. If
if
not,
we're all
March,
okay.
We
Yeah.
can wait until March too. I think by March, we should try to see if there's something she can send us about the long-term plan.
Yeah, but as far as I knew, there was no new surprising anything coming up in that area, so I thought we could table it. And then the other area that I think we need to table today is the story walk discussion, because I don't think there's any new information on that we haven't already discussed. Anybody mind if we table that until our next meeting?
Nope.
Okay, good. And now the third thing is, and that I'm asking Amy and Kim Regan about this, the staff appreciation discussion. Do you want to just fill us in on this very quickly?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay,
It's basically the plan going forward, and this isn't, just like my project, so everybody can jump, give their input. It's just, I said I'd take the lead. So the goal is for those of you who were part of Staff Appreciation Week with the schools to pick the week right around the library appreciation time, but we're trying to avoid being right up against school vacation week. So we'll pick it with that in mind. And then for the 5 weekdays, have something special for the staff each day. It doesn't have to be huge, but like we said, there could be breakfast provided one day. There could be lunch provided one day, snacks. I thought ice cream bar one day, so that depending, staff members' schedules move all over, so that they'll at least should be able to hit one of these. The other goal is to maybe make 5 raffle baskets that will be raffled to the adult staff members, and maybe each trustee could be responsible for creating one. You can solicit donations, ask friends. It's not huge. Don't get scared, Janet. It's not.
Like
I
by
have
the
my eye on you, Janet.
you look scared. I didn't see
thing.
scared.
No. I mean, put it. If you can't put it together, I can put it together, but gathering stuff, it's not a major deal. The same idea as Kim and I discussed, a trustee could each take one of these days, not to make everything happen, but just to be the point person. Kim has volunteered to do signups online so we can get community support. We can also ask for community support through things like My Southborough. So that's the general quick and dirty gist of it. It's not all on the backs of the trustees, but I thought since it is coming from our hearts, we can kind of be the stewards of how it functions. Like for example, breakfast day, people are going to sign up, but it would still be wise for if, we'll put Janet on the spot. If Janet is in charge of breakfast day, for example, she might just want to make sure she shows up with a few munchkins and things in case everybody fails to, add to what's there. But otherwise, our community loves our library. I think this will give them an awesome opportunity to show their love. And like I said, with the raffle baskets, I think it's just an idea to create some fun and buzz for them. And if we do it so that every adult employee is in the poll, and then if you win, obviously, I don't think it's fair to have one person win more than once. So, but other than that, that's my thinking. If you have other suggestions, feel free to send them to Kim and I, and we can work on incorporating them. It's just, we're kind of just basing it on the school appreciation. Kim, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all. We're still at the beginning stages, but
Yeah.
hopefully Amy and I will be able to come up with a little bit more of an outline to take you guys through it, so that we can just be prepared for April. So,
Amy,
It
would this
sounds
be the
wonderful.
week of April 4th by any chance?
I don't think I don't think we have an exact week. We're working with Ryan to make sure what's the best week without backing up to the school vacation or a
The
school.
following week ends on Good Friday, and the following week is Easter week, and I believe that's school vacation week.
Yeah.
I could be
The-
wrong.
The ALA has it's like a staff, I think it's like Staff Appreciation Week, which is usually the second week of April. And then there's a National Library Workers Day, which I believe is around April 11th. So
Yeah.
that's if you're not, you guys are talking about doing a week of events now, which is fantastic. But I usually give the staff some sort of library promotional item. One
Yeah.
year we had mouse pads, one year we had flash drives, and it has library logo on it. So they usually get a gift from me on that day.
The 11th.
I
that
think
day?
it's, I don't know if the date changes, Jane, so don't quote me on
Oh.
that, but I think in the past it's been either April 10th or April 11th. I can send that date to you after. I
Yeah,
look
the
it up.
11th is a Monday. That's probably it.
Brian, I think the ALA National Library Workers' Day is April 5th this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought it was
Thank
earlier.
you. Yeah.
I mean, we
So,
also do it whatever day works best or
Right.
whatever works best for the library. So Amy and I can work with Ryan on that.
oh, it says it's April 12th. I just looked it up.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe we could solid the dates for the next
Yeah,
meeting.
ALA might have a
We don't
different
need
date.
them
too.
right now,
That's happened,
so-
that's
Let's-
happened before.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's the
Let's-
week leading into Easter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it'll just deviate from what the posted holidays are. April is really the month that they do
Right.
it.
Right. This is,
Okay.
I think this is fantastic. It's wonderful. I'm sure people who use the library will want to join in the thank you. And I look forward to hearing more from you, Amy and Kim, about your fabulous ideas upcoming, including the dates. When you can clarify that, no rush, because we still have, what is January? We're not
Yes.
doing this until April. So I thank you for doing this. I think it's wonderful, and it's a new thing, and it's going to be great.
There was a note, it actually said in Hungary, like the country. I didn't read the full thing when I was looking at the date, so this is why you shouldn't look stuff up in the middle of a meeting. That's a good example.
Hungary is good too. Okay, so all right. So do we have any more on this, or can we say thank you and move on to a couple of other items before we get to the director's report? Okay,
I'm
good.
finished. So
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kim and Amy. It's just a wonderful, very fabulous thing to be doing, especially in COVID times, that I think will be a big up for everybody involved. Okay, now the next thing I'd like to see if we want to discuss or table is item number 8, which is the meeting agenda requirements. And I'm going to hand that over to Ryan because I don't think it needs a lot of debate, but it does need a little clarification. How's that?
So just really quick, I spoke with Kim Hegarty about this because it was a suggestion from our frequent meeting attender, Mr. Litt, to have the items filed with the agenda. So I guess Mr. Litt has made the suggestion to a few boards and committees. In talking with Mr. Hegarty, he just wanted to say that it's not a requirement. So I'm just throwing that out there. I will not, I already know this, I will not have, by the time we file the agenda, all of the meeting materials ready. It didn't happen this month either. It typically doesn't happen. I can send it in to the town clerk when it is ready, but that is going to put more work on me and more work on the staff at the town clerk's office. So that's not to say I'm not willing to do that work. I just want to make you aware that it's an extra step. Jim and I were on the phone on Sunday about the agenda materials for this meeting. So I would just say, I don't want to have Jim call me on Sunday if he has a question, because that's a day we typically have off, even though I like talking to Jim on the phone. He's great. So I'm happy to make, upon request, any meeting materials that I send to you guys available to any resident who's interested if they want to review the materials as you're looking at them or at the time frame that you do. But I'm just, because it was kind of like pitched as an idea from a resident. And then, I wanted to make sure we weren't making any sort of rash decisions. I'm saying we, but you as a board. I know that I've been given feedback in the past that I send you materials last minute. I was sending you minutes a couple hours before the meeting. So I'm trying to do better with all of that. And I can try to add it as a packet to the town clerk when we file the agenda. So I don't know that it needs a vote or if you guys want to have a discussion about that, but I'm letting you know it's not required to submit the materials with the agenda.
With all due respect to Mr. Litt, I would say let's keep it simple. And unless there's some broad groundswell of interest in this, again, not to deny the legitimacy of Mr. Litt's inquiry, I would say that if it's not mandatory, and it's, if it's not mandatory, let's keep it simple. And I would suggest that we would not be out of line if we just let it pass for now.
I'm
Okay,
trying to get stuff out to you on so just to let you know, Jane, because I don't want to send meeting materials out for Tuesday on a Monday, because I don't think that gives anybody enough time to review anything. So my promise to you is that the materials will go out on the Friday or at the latest Saturday afternoon before the meeting the prior week. So I hope that's enough time for you guys to review it. If not, you can let me know, and I will try to get it even earlier.
that is fine with me.
Yeah.
Monday's too late.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Monday's too late, I've decided. So just don't get mad at me on a holiday week too, because some people have a long weekend or they're traveling, but I can do Friday or Saturday before. I can do Saturday at the latest. That's okay with you.
Sounds good.
That's fine
That
with me.
sounds fine,
Anybody have
yeah.
anything they want to say about that?
I always do everything the morning of the meeting, so so I'm good. Because
Well,
then I remember
Janet-
it all.
Well,
Janet, I don't think I
don't.
have that option. That's what we're
No.
that's just what we're trying to decide. So I think trying to explain though, like
Yeah.
me putting all the materials and getting them to you, like different people have different times that they do it, right? Like
Right.
it might be better to do it on Sunday if people have that off and they want to read through everything. So I'm trying to be kind of like, or Monday night, right? The
I
night
get it,
before.
and it's terrific, but don't worry about me.
No, absolutely. And there's always the option of calling you or texting you or emailing you, Ryan, and saying, what about X, Y, or Z? I mean, and I think Mr. Litt can probably do the same thing if he has the questions. My only objection to doing it a lot earlier than the meeting is that things change within the 3 days before the meeting.
I usually submit an expense report to the town like on the Friday, and like I have to update all the documents. So
Right.
usually I need until Friday or Saturday to get everything updated to send to you. So it's part of the reason. The director's report doesn't take me as long as the expense does, like putting
Right.
all the expenses, make sure that's up to date. Because I triple check everything before I send it to you. So
Okay, let's do that, and with the understanding that it will try to be faster and that Jane will have it at least 48, hopefully 72 hours before the meeting. If that is a doable thing, right?
Yeah, I didn't know I was on a record for being the complainer, but that'd be great if it's possible.
no, it's
If it's not, I mean, you don't want to keep revising either, you know, I
okay.
think it's more difficult if it comes out early and then there's an
Yeah,
addition
here's
or an
version
edit.
2, here's version 3, right?
So I'm fine. I think I must have been the one who complained because I sometimes am out early Thursday.
No, it wasn't a complaint. It wasn't a complaint, Jane. So just because complaint and Jane rhyme, that it doesn't mean it was you. When in the last meeting, when Mr. Litt suggested this, you said, because you brought up accurately so that I sometimes send stuff out the day before the meeting and there isn't enough time to review it. And you said it in the past and you're right. And that's in the back of my head. So I feel like it is like I said Jane a lot in this meeting, but I'm saying it to everybody because you're not the only person that's giving me that feedback and I need to do better at that. So.
Okay, all right.
So we can
Enough.
leave it. We can leave
We
it
can
here
move
and
on,
see
yeah.
how it goes. No, Jane, it was feedback. It's feedback.
Feedback.
That's the technical term, feedback. I'd like to give you some feedback on that. So we're gonna have everything out as soon as it can be out. Okay, good.
So if it's okay, Marguerite, can I go to some of the agenda items that I think we can also dispose of quickly?
Okay,
So for the FY23 budget discussion, before we move to the director's report, at the end of the advisory meeting, they gave us some feedback about some of the budget items, but they didn't take a vote on the budget. My question for you is, at this point, the budget had already been sent in to Brian and the town administration, and they didn't give us sort of any concerned feedback. We did hear about a couple of things from advisory. right, to think about. Is there a direction from the board at this point of anything you'd like me to revise in the budget or that you'd like me to bring back for February? Because that's only in a couple weeks.
Okay, I'll jump in and I'll say that I think we voted on this budget, including to include the hotspots. And I'm okay with the budget as we approved it. So other thoughts on this are welcome.
I
I have nothing
agree.
to add.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, that we can have a big discussion at some point about what the role of a library is, but some of that is, it's not just for our town. I don't want to get into it now, but this whole hotspot thing is somewhat, what is our responsibility to citizens that want and need these things? And I don't think we should just look at Southborough. So I'd rather have a bigger discussion at a later date.
There have been about 38 checkouts of the hotspots too. I did check on that. I think there was some discussion about getting specific patron data. That is something that, because of patron privacy, CW Mars doesn't track. So we don't have that. What Mariana and I are starting, we're in the early stages of doing this now. We're going to develop a survey that's online that users who check out a hotspot will be asked to voluntarily fill out. And I will say, last week I attended the Municipal Technology Committee meeting, and I brought this up to them because advisory had discussed involving the MTC or talking to them about it. And they are also familiar with libraries checking out the hotspots and seem to be, I don't want to say they advocated for it because they didn't vote and they didn't take a position, but I will say that in that group, I think they also saw the value of offering them to the public, and they had asked, and at that point I knew they had been checked out a fair amount. So budgetarily, what I can tell you is, even though we put in for 5 hotspots, the Massachusetts newspapers resource, which was also something that was discussed in the advisory meeting, we got back a revised amount for that is higher than the projected one was. So that went up from, I forget what it was at before, but it went up to about 3.5 thousand. So it's now one of the more expensive electronic resources. So that is something, we pulled some user data, we provided that to advisory. I'm happy to send all of that to you, but in order to afford the newspaper database, we would most likely have to offer less hotspots once we start paying for them. The other idea is also to, because I'm not committed to get, I think if we budget for them, we have the possibility to get them, but we might also want to take a break from when the MBLC program ends to see if people request them. And then I understand that's a disruption in service, but then the other option might be is if we wanted to add more of them, we could pay for it out of state aid. And that might be an option that we could look at. So there's a couple different things. I don't think we've made any final decisions on the hotspots. I think it's something that needs to be explored based on the feedback we got from advisory.
Okay, and I support keeping the number of newspapers. What is that? That consortium is how many, 300 and how many newspapers are in that?
It's just under 400 resources.
Yeah,
sources.
I mean,
it's
hello, it's the news, right? But anyway, okay, Kim.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention about the hotspots. I mean, I definitely support that as an item that we circulate. That's not an issue with me, but given the feedback that we did get from advisory, I do think that we should consider cutting back from the full 5, as Ryan had suggested. I think it's hard to get something new, and in the year that you're doing it, building up the awareness with users, and I think it's hard when you just kind of take that away. Because sometimes it takes a little more time to make sure everyone knows it and is accustomed to using it and knowing that that's a resource of ours. But like Ryan said, we don't have to renew them right away. But Ryan, do you have a sense if are all 5 of them ever out at the same time? Could we arrive at an optimal number that is slightly less? Because, when you look at the cost of that, that's, nearly half of what we're requesting for programming budget. So I think
They
that
were only, yeah, and Kim, to answer, I can
Only
answer
November.
that right away. They were only all checked out for a 2-week period in December. So generally, there's 1 to 2 of them that are still checked in, and we are looking at how we would manage like a wait list for them. I think the other idea that was suggested by advisory, because we do check them out for a 3-week period, which is kind of our default for the more than books items for anything sort of non-traditional. So I think we would look at, if we paid for them, reducing the checkout time to maybe like a week at a time. So that would, I think that would also allow more checkouts, since people have them for a shorter amount of time.
Yep.
So there's a couple different ways I think that I'm already thinking about it, like the wheels are turning about what we would do. But we have this existing program, for the record, free of charge from the MBLC through October of this year. So we've got a long while to sort of look at how it's working, and then to start thinking about how it would work in the future.
sounds good.
Okay, thanks. Amy?
Sorry,
David?
that wasn't quick.
No, we like our hotspots. We want to find out the most economical and reasonable way to do them, I think.
No, I agree that we should keep them. I think, as Kim commented and Ryan, a little bit of exploration as to exactly how many we are truly using. And, but I don't think people should have to prove the need. Again, and I do think they are useful. Again, as Janet also said, that we are not just serving our town, but there are people in our town, although people tend to like to ignore this, that need these kind of things. So there we go.
We looked it up. There's about between 500 to 600 residents in Southborough who don't have internet.
Yeah, that's right. We discussed that. So that's an important factor.
Mariana pulled statistics from the last census. So we were able to get
And the
some
decrease
data.
in time, I think 3 weeks seems like a lot, unless, I think, Ryan, you've been very good with patrons, as like, if a family came into you and said, look, to get my kids online for whatever reason, is there a way we could do longer? I'm sure there's a way that we can work with people, and also hook them up, as was commented during, I believe, advisory. There are other sources for getting these things, but sometimes it's a matter of you can't pay your bill, so you lose it for a month. So, I think these are important to have. It's just how we kind of finagle it to make it most productive and most palatable, I suppose.
Did the technology committee have anything to say about other vendors besides Verizon?
We're currently using T-Mobile. 'cause
Oh,
that's the
T-Mobile, I
program.
mean, yeah.
So they just got, the town's carrier is Verizon. So
Mhm.
they suggested working with Jay and exploring if there would be some sort of cost difference. So we would look at that too,
Okay.
long term.
Okay, good. Any other trustees want to weigh in about the hotspots? I guess it's to be continued, right?
This can be a discussion at a future meeting too, but for the purposes of the budget, which was the agenda item, what I've heard from the board so far, and please jump in and correct me, is that we're not going to revise the budget, the final budget number at the current time. What we submitted stands for right now.
Yes, do we need to vote on that again, or do we just
No.
say, okay, just informally, yes, the trustees support the budget as it was
You
submitted?
can vote, but you don't have to.
Would it make it stronger if we did?
I don't think so.
All
But
right.
if
But Ryan, I think you probably need to get back to advisory and say, we heard what you said
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we discussed it, and here's, the temporary resolution in any case.
But
I'd be happy to reach out to Kathy. Yeah, sorry.
They may
Kim.
not be, they may hold off voting voting for it in favor or not, until you get back to them.
if we're looking at reducing the number of hotspots, though, why wouldn't we revise the number?
Because the Massachusetts newspaper database is going to go up.
Oh, okay.
So by default, we're going to have to. So even though the bottom line of the budget will remain the same, the spending within the amounts will vary differently. Does that make sense,
Well,
Kim?
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah,
very
and
much.
there's state aid, and there's also investigating another vendor. And I thought that 5 was the minimum number of them you could have from,
For the state program,
for the
but
state program.
not for if we contract individually. The other thing we think, just to let you guys aware, because this might come up in October, is that what most likely will happen is T-Mobile will offer some sort of discount for libraries that want to continue the program. So that at that point, that might be something I bring to you guys and talk it through, because that has financial implications, right?
Good. Well, it sounds like we're being responsible financial stewards here, and there's a bunch of unknowns in this right now, so.
But Kim, I will communicate that we are probably going to, that we would consider reducing the number of hotspots. And Janet, I will reach out to Kathy and just say, you know, our budget submission, the bottom line is the same, but the hotspots are something we're looking at.
Good. Okay, any other discussion on this? All right, shall we move to the director's report?
Sure. So there wasn't a whole lot in this one. So I think, I know normally we spend about 30 minutes on my report, and I always feel bad about that. We're continuing trying to network the copy machine. I'm going to wait to talk about interior renovations until I'm through the rest of the report, because that's the longest, I think.
Ryan, what do you mean network the copy machine?
So the copy machine right now is not on it, so it needs to be connected to the town's internet network. Okay, it needs to be connected in order to run updates. That we found this out kind of after we purchased it. Otherwise, the machine locks and it needs to be rebooted. So there's that. And also we're trying to integrate, there have been requests from the public, as we kind of figured there would be, on using it for scanning services. And if patrons want to be able to scan items and then send it to a place, it'll need to be networked for that purpose. We tried to find a solution by putting it on the wireless network, and that is not solving the problem. So we coordinated that with the vendor for a while. Jay is continuing to work with it, but it was delayed for a while because of the the carpeting project, because John wanted to get that under control before we started playing with the wires in the different. So I've met with the town's electrician, who's very part-time, and he needed some additional equipment in order to do the tests. I don't know the next time he's going to get back to the library. He's all over the place, and he's not here very many hours a week. So we'll get him when we can get him, and we'll try to get this done. I put it in the director's report as a reminder to remind myself to continue to coordinate with John Parent and Jay Montijo, the IT director. But they have been very helpful about this. It is just one of those things that's taking a long time. So
Is that Nemensky Electric?
sorry, say that again?
Is that Nemensky Electric, or are they no longer the town electricians?
No, we have a part-time employee named Bobby. So
Okay.
Rob, I don't know his last name. He works full-time, I think, as an electrician somewhere else, I'm pretty sure. And then he does part-time work for the town. So he comes in a lot at night. So
Okay.
I stayed with him late on a Monday to, explain to him what was going on.
Okay. All right, so that's to be continued. And it's sort of Jay's headache more than ours at this point, I'm sorry
Yeah,
to say.
the big thing I'll say about the sort of that area of the director's report is just, I really do have to publicly commend the staff, is that if you can imagine painting around the circulation desk and up over this was very disruptive to the staff trying to assist people. And we had to close one side of the circulation desk at a time. So patrons need to be directed. We had to move holds at one point to the other side. Many of you have been in the library and you saw how sort of chaotic it was. And I will just say the staff really persevered. So it was great. We already talked about staff appreciation, because they really deserve it this year, I'll say, because I know that there were times that they went home and probably had a headache just from all of the, and they were there when they were replacing some of the ceiling tiles too. It was just, they are troopers, and I really am proud of them. So
Amen.
Yep, they've been great. Okay, so
Um,
any other director's report information, or do you want to move to the expense?
Does anybody have any questions about the programs? That's pretty self-explanatory.
Mhm.
So I have been in conversations with Dr. Alker. We are continuing in-person storytime programs because of the relatively low attendance there. But we have suspended all of the other or postponed them. And that is just being consistent with what the other town departments have done. We also knew the interior renovation project was coming, so we didn't schedule stuff on purpose because of that. So we are really looking more towards March and April as kind of big programming launch months. And part of that is when the weather is nicer outside, we will, like last year, move a lot of our stuff outside where it is safer for staff and for the public.
Good.
A quick question, Ryan, about the college age library pages.
Yes.
Of the 5 that were on the docket, or that were on our roster before, my notes say that they all left, and now 3 of the 5 have come back. Does that mean you're short? You need 5?
That's a great segue. So they all came back for the winter break. They all ended up getting shifts on a regular basis, and now they are all gone back to school as of last week. So Kim and I talked about this. There was a change, as there sometimes is, with the new school semester with our high school pages, our current high school pages. There was a young lady named Maggie Fitzgerald who we really wanted to hire, but we could not fit her into the existing schedule. So at first we thought 5 pages was like a little bit too many pages, but we reduced the number of hours of their shift because they're in high school to just 2 hours at a time. So we have reached out to Maggie because she applied in the fall to see if she was still interested, because the only reason we didn't hire her was because of a scheduling issue, is that we needed somebody for Wednesday, and that was the one day Maggie was not available at that time of year. So what I would like is we can do this after, I think we should do it now.
Why don't we just do the library page appointment now?
Yeah, is if we could move to the library page appointment, because what I would like is permission to hire an additional page. And part of that, David, is to cover some of that that the college kids were helping us with. So they also were helping me with a couple different projects, like sort of doing inventory of the collection. So that helped. I'll give you just another brief update, is of the library associate applications, we received 5, which I've heard from my colleagues in other towns is a good number of candidates to have for a very small part-time position. We've narrowed down the applications. We definitely want to talk to 3 of the associate candidates. So we are setting up interviews with Vanessa Hale next week to do that. So we're going to see if the candidates are available. We could probably, depending on the amount of hours that they work during the week, hire up to 2 associates. We're going to try to just do 1 and see if they're available 2 days during the week. If we have one day and 1 the other day, I will update you in February about that. But there'll be a library associate appointment probably on the agenda for next meeting after we finish the interviews and make, you have to appoint them and then we can make an offer. But so if it's okay with you, Kim Ivers and I would like to have the board entertain a motion to appoint Maggie Fitzgerald as library page.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
Okay, so I think Janet moved and Kim seconded.
Whichever.
Or next time, David, it'll be your.
David and Janet seconded at the exact same time.
They did. Okay, so all right, so we're there, and we'll make a vote. Jane, your vote.
Aye.
David.
Aye.
Okay, and Marguerite, aye. Janet,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
and Amy.
Aye.
All right, so it passes unanimously. Congratulations to Margaret Fitzgerald.
Is she a high school student too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's currently at Algonquin.
She's
Good.
what?
She's an
Algonquin?
Algonquin student.
Yeah. Good. I know that was the scheduling thing that was the only problem with that before, so that's good. All right, so where are we on the agenda? Now the expense report, Ryan, and then we can move into the meat here.
Yeah, so we're still technically in the director's report. So just two quick things.
Mhm.
There's been a couple website updates. So the library, we've taken the plunge and we've added a third social media outlet. So the library is now officially on Instagram too. So there's an Instagram account you can follow. We're going to be posting pictures of there. So that is something Mariana, as part of her new role, is going to manage. We're hoping that that will help attract more youth users. So there will be sometimes a teen slant, I'll say, to the Instagram, but that is where we think the audience is. We're continuing to update Facebook, which is primarily Amy Townsley, and Twitter, which is primarily Carol Logan. So I help out on all of them. I'll be helping out on the third, but I told Mariana if we add an Instagram, she's going to be in charge of it. So we have it officially in the meeting this time that I'm saying that. We also added, this was long overdue, but a teen tab that's adjacent to the children's tab on the website. So largely we have started to fill content in those pieces. We wanted to get some stuff together, but that is also something Mariana is largely doing in her new full-time role. So you guys are kind of seeing like some of the stuff that's filling up Mariana's day. So she's able to sort of contribute and help out with the website and with social media in ways that she couldn't as a part-time staff member. So
Great.
she has also completed an initial draft of the LSTA grant, which we are hoping that we will submit in February. At some point, probably not yet, but I will ask if some of the trustees want to be proofreaders and give notes and feedback on the grant. So if you were interested in that, please let me know. One of the pieces we're trying to work out is the needs. There's sort of like a needs assessment we do on trying to fit that with our community. And then, so we're looking at demographic and statistical information. We're also looking at the budget, like how we would spend the money we got from the state. So there's a couple ideas, a few circulating items we would add to the collection as a result. But if you have ideas either on either of those specific items, that is something we're looking at. We've reached out to the cookbook club participants from who haven't met in a while, but we've asked them if they would like to contribute that or letters of support for the grant. So we've already gotten some feedback there right away because they were waiting for us to talk about cooking programs at the library again, which is exciting. I can now, I think, comfortably move right into the interior renovations discussion.
All right.
So I will bring up, just because I think the visual is powerful, right? So for anybody who's watching, this is a testament to the vendor and to John Parent's team that it looks so great in the Judy Williams reading room. So the reading room should be completed as of today. I won't be on site until tomorrow. And then they're doing the circulation desk, I think, at the moment. They might have finished for the day at this point, but they are definitely going to need, it looks like, a significant amount of time Wednesday. What I can tell you guys is I do not know if we're going to have to shut down Thursday. I have been in touch with my South Borough, who can put out a notice, and we would also update our users Thursday morning if the library needs to remain closed for the carpeting. But John and I are hopeful that everything can get done by Wednesday afternoon.
Is that because the glue needs to cure?
A little bit, yes. And they wanted to do additional testing on some of that old tile that was in the staff room.
Yeah.
Which we were a little worried about because of some of the materials that were being used. So they had to rip the existing carpet up to see how far the tile extended. So the good news is, and the reason we're kind of still on schedule at the moment, is because the tile did not extend. It extended basically as far as we thought, but we couldn't know for sure until the carpet was ripped up, if that makes sense. So things are progressing. It looks really good. I think because people saw little squares and they didn't see how it was going to be laid out. So we will be taking lots of pictures and posting it to the public and thanking them for their understanding while we were.
No, it looks fantastic. It's a whole new life for those rooms, which is great. And if the library needs to shut down for an extra day so that everybody doesn't get a headache, so be it.
I will say I've helped a number of people who have left voicemails because when COVID hit, we set it up so that if you leave a voicemail at the library, I get an audio recording sent to my email. And then we did advertise also through my Southborough that we're on the chat interface in case people forgot. And we've helped a number of people on the chat as well. So people are still finding us and we are still helping people, even though the building is closed. So that's
Good.
also positive.
Good.
Is
Okay,
there
so
going to be
go
is
ahead.
there going to be a
Dave.
continuing smell issue there, do you suppose?
We are, I can let you guys know. I would say, why don't I do this? If we open as planned on Thursday, I will send you a message. If we have to close, I will send you a message. So you will hear from me Thursday morning about that. And if the smell is a problem, Thursday when we open or the staff don't feel, they don't feel well, then that will be, I think, a consideration on what we can do.
Absolutely, yeah.
John said that the smell isn't really pervasive in the children's room area, and we're hoping in the teen room too. So Kim and I are planning on going in tomorrow and working in those areas for a little, like just the afternoon, which is when most of the work should be complete. If the smell is a problem, we'll leave. And some of the staff have, full-time staff want to come in, to grab stuff or to work on projects. And we've already told them that if the smell is a problem, or if the workers are still working, they won't be able to do that. So really what we're looking at is maybe tomorrow afternoon might be like a staff day where we're in the building and we're still not open. That'll help us, I think, get a better read on whether or not a Thursday opening is possible. John says we probably can still open on Thursday. So that's our hope.
That's good. I know those are good questions, David. And I know the downstairs was recarpeted. It was summer and the windows could be open. So it sounds, Ryan, like you're on top of this in terms of being aware of the safety issues for our staff, which is
well,
good.
the staff have also brought to my attention, I guess, the forecast for Saturday looks like a significant amount of snow. So the other thing I'll say is,
yeah.
yeah, you might be hearing from me on Saturday that the library has to shut down because of inclement weather concerns. So I'm not crazy about having to close on Thursday because of the carpet and then having to close on Saturday because of the snow. But I mean, I think to a certain extent, these are not entirely within our sphere of control, right?
Right.
So,
Circumstances beyond our control. There it is. Anyway, well, it sounds like you're on top of the issue about the fumes, which was I'm sure all of us had a concern that would be a problem. Okay, any other director's report data you want to bring up, or anything in the expense report that we need to talk about before we get to the capital planning discussion?
yeah, I would just say expenses are still on track. We're a little bit, we're actually in good shape, I think, for the book budget at this point, in my opinion, as the director. I don't know if anybody has any specific concerns about any of the budget items at this point. I don't. I'll share with you that.
Okay.
We're definitely renewing the Wowberry service. We just got a notice to renew it. And that has been so well received by the community that I don't think I could ever take it away and that
No,
people
it's
would
great.
be happy with that. So that we're going to continue that. The renewal is around January for that. So that's going to come out of the, I believe, the subscription services. So, okay. That's
Okay,
it for
that's good. Now-
expenses.
Yeah. Well, a well-balanced budget. I have a hard stop at 4:45. Does anyone else have a hard stop?
I have the same, Marguerite.
Okay, so the remaining item on the agenda that's identified is the Capital Planning Committee DRA space usage report discussion. Ryan, you're taking point on that, and let's hear from each let's hear from you, Ryan, first, and then ask for each trustee to speak their suggestions about this.
Most of you were at that meeting last week, and then I think if you weren't able to attend, you got to see the video of it. I'm sure people in this group probably watched the video more than once, and then we've also seen some of the slides. So there were a lot of options, I think, on the table that DRA proposed, and some of them were I like that the library was included and that they thought about different ways to give the library space. Some of the initial options talked about adding space to the library and looked at an addition, I think, on top of where sort of the staff room and the back nonfiction stacks are. So maybe those are the options I have the most questions about, because I think I would want to talk with Karen and potentially John about the implications for sort of the septic system, because it borders that area. Obviously the gardeners, I think, are a group that I would be interested in, because I think that potentially affects the circle garden, or at least behind it. It would disrupt the story walk area that we just did too. So I think there's a lot of different things. They did say that was just a visual guide. I think looking at sort of where we could see square footage, right? They said that it was potentially that an addition could be looked at in a different way. So to me, Jason Malinowski said this at the beginning of the meeting, that none of the decisions were final. That these were just different ideas, I would say, about both consolidating some of the town offices and services, and then also trying to meet the space needs of the users. We're one of the departments, I think, that has talked about space on a regular basis because of our long-term plans to renovate or even potentially look at a new library, right? Because we have to do both as part of the construction project. So the construction grant cycle that MBLC offers. So we've talked about that taking 10 years, I think, for the past couple of years, right? So it always seems to be 10 years down the road. I think looking at potential options to meet space needs now is something we do have to look at and have discussions about. And I think that it's good that this is a townwide initiative, I guess, that the Capital Committee is taking the lead on. Janet and I toured Woodward very briefly,
With Kim.
With Kim Ivers too. And we just talked about some of the logistical challenges in moving the entirety of the children's room over to Woodward. That was one of the discussions we had. I think, Kim and I are really seeing that would be very challenging on a number of different levels. So we've looked at alternate collections and services that could be moved. I don't know that the children's room could be, in my opinion, right now. But again, I'm trying to keep an open mind and look at all of our potential possibilities. But that's kind of where I'm at, I'll say.
Okay, that's great. And Janet, you were the person who had the walkthrough, and you're kind of our building point person, for better or worse, as far as you're concerned. I mean, first it's the facade renovation, and then there are a number of other things that have come up. But what were your thoughts after the walkthrough and after the meeting?
Well, I kind of want to hear everybody else's thoughts because they haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Okay.
I will say that when Jason first brought up the idea of moving the children's room, I was horrified. I just, and I kept thinking, well, maybe Ryan's thought about this, but when they talked about additional space, it never occurred to me that they were talking about moving a function. So I started at the same place that I think everybody else did when they first thought about it, but now I'm past that. But I really want to hear what the other folks have to say, what their first reactions are and where their thoughts are at this point.
Okay, well then, Jane, how about you?
Well, I was Also looking at the plans they had for the, didn't they also talk about using the townhouse for a piece of it?
Mhm.
And my first thought was that that's a drive away. If you had children using the children's department, there's a big church in the middle there. It, same as you, Janet, it's separating the library, separating two pieces that seem to be, they must be together. So, but as they talked, it became more clear that, we have to consider all options. So I'm not sure. I'm beginning to come around, I guess, to see that it's an option. I don't. Anyway, that was my initial. So I didn't. I've been in Woodward, but not with that view in mind.
With you in mind, okay.
I thought that they were going to put all this town offices in Woodward and the library in the townhouse. Wasn't that?
So the option 7, which I think was the focus on that meeting, as
Mhm.
probably the proposal that was the most viable, that the
Okay.
townhouse was really, because I don't know that a lot of people are clamoring to utilize the townhouse space, right? And you wouldn't have to cross a street in order to get to
Right.
the townhouse from the library,
Well,
right?
you could walk, right? But I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's not exactly next door, even the
No.
townhouse.
No, and it would be about the same amount of walking distance as it would be to Woodward. But if the library needed like its own space, I mean, I think they were also looking at other functions for the townhouse. And one of the pitches you heard from the school committee was to move, I think, some of the superintendent office functions there too. So there
Yeah.
were different ideas that they had pitched for the townhouse, but I think using it potentially as library space was one of them.
Just one of them.
I will say, and then I'll shut up so that the other trustees can talk, is that I did directly ask the DRA consultants if they were aware of, not just in Massachusetts, but of any library that had separated the children's functions from the rest of the library. And they were not aware of that. When we toured Woodward, we asked the same question to the town administration team, and Vanessa said that Concord had done something similar, but Kim Ivers and I looked into this, and they opened a branch. They didn't move their children's room out. So I would just say, if that was the proposal on the table, we would be the first. And I would just say that might not be good as a trendsetter. I think that probably there's many reasons why libraries have kept the children's room as part of their main facility.
Right, okay, good. And I'm going alphabetically now. David, what do you think?
Yeah, these are my notes from the meeting, and on this side of the page lists, it's either 23 or 24 other people that we had to listen to before our issue came up. So hats off to all of us for our patience to get to the point where we had some input. Just being a smartass. I'm puzzled because it isn't clear to me whether the school committee is going to repurpose, close and repurpose, allow to be repurposed Woodward School. So I guess we're still talking about a contingency which may never happen. I was interested, and this is very positive, I think, nothing was made of it at the time, but they listed various town functions. They had a quality factor, 1 through 5. Anybody pick up on that? And had the library as a 4, and there weren't too many. This followed some one of the DRA guys saying that some of the programs that we have are not in spaces well suited for the program type. And then went on to say that the library, not speaking about space, but speaking about quality, was a 4, and there were very few 4s and no 5s. The townhouse thing, I mean, that's still to me that's an unknown, like the repurposing, closing / repurposing of the Woodward School. So again, we're talking about a contingency which may or not be available. Where I come down on this now, and I am educable and trainable on these issues, believe it or not, is that I think that, and I was trying very hard not to say this, but I think I ended up saying it at the meeting, that at least at this point, I think a separation of the programs is, and I'll be blunt with you, I think one of the worst ideas I've encountered in my brief association with the library trustees. As I say, I am educable, but if there, I'll say one last thing, if there is space available at Woodward School, that we don't need to move a function such as a children's function there, but we could certainly use some space there for storage. But in terms of separating functions, I am firmly, right now, I'm firmly in the camp of not separating.
Okay, all right. Kim,
All right. What hasn't been said? So I guess the suggestion to move the children's room to the library at Woodward. I mean, I guess I don't know the specific square footage between those two spaces, but I have been in the Woodward Library many times, and that does not, to me at least, seem any bigger than the space we have. So if one of our issues with needing an addition or renovation to our existing library is that we need more space for the children's area, I don't think Woodward, that space will accommodate. I think the only positive of that Woodward potential plan is that programs for children could happen in the gym or the cafeteria space. But from a, materials standpoint, like I just don't see how that would get us anything better than the space that we currently have. I'm also, like David and many of you, not supportive of splitting our library functions. I think just the value of a library is to be able to go and, kind of get everything you need there. And just, as a library user myself and, with children, I take children to the library to use it, to have to go to two separate spaces for that, I think would be a huge inconvenience for many of our patrons. So that's not something I support. In terms of utilizing the townhouse, I can't say I support really any plan that splits up our services unless it's in a way that, like, if the townhouse had public meeting space or like event space, then maybe in the next 10 years or in the interim until we do any sort of renovation, if we could, use that space to walk up to the townhouse to, for Kim to have the magician or to, do a children's program that we really can't accommodate inside the library. I think in situations like that, that might be something that could work for us. But my preference is very much to keep everything in the same space. But, based on all these conversations, I think it's really clear that we need to get very clear on what we need. Like, we can't just keep saying we need more space and we need an addition. We need to get more specific to say, like, we need X% more space for our children's collection or for, our teen collection, or we need repurposed space that we don't have right now. So that's kind of my takeaway from all of this.
okay, good, thank you. And Amy, what are your thoughts?
Same as the night of the presentation, but I think things that are overlooked, like I said, is first of all, just staffing. We can't even get, funds for the staff that we need. And you cannot just put one person in a building like the townhouse. You're going to need more than one. You're going to need a librarian, not just a temporary staff person. So I think that type of thing is totally being pushed to the side with them saying, well, we're not going to discuss money or the renovation, which I think is disingenuous. But as Kim said, using, for example, the townhouse, I think Ryan has some research that shows, children's libraries should be on the first floor with no stairs, no elevator, no anything that precludes access, easy access, because you got strollers and kids and bags. And so both Woodward and the townhouse are both on the second floor. So you've got steps, and Kim's idea, I think, is a good one of maybe having events somewhere, but I also see the townhouse as being bad for that. There's no parking. There's no, not a lot of parking. Again, you've got the steps. If anything else, if we could just say, hey, can we use the, what is currently the gym or the cafeteria for events occasionally, that I think that would be more beneficial to us than trying to set up shop at two other places. Again, I think not only having kids, but you may have grandkids that are visiting. Do you want to have to schlep to two different places? I think for Ryan, holds, is he going to have to have holds available wherever anybody just feels like showing up for them? Same with the library passes. I think I think they're to some extent looking at this as an annex or a branch, which it most definitely would not be. You do not create a branch next door to where your main facility is. If you're going to do a branch, it should be a full flushed out branch that is beneficial to people who are not in the area. And I also think him saying that it's so close, it's just as close as walking down the hall in Woodward. Well, Woodward is a flat surface inside that does not need to be plowed or shoveled. And it still sometimes would be a bridge too far for a parent with a couple kids and a bag full of books to walk down to the end of a hall in Woodward, but definitely to go up or down to in a whole nother, area, I think is a lot to ask. So as Kim said, we need to know exactly what we need. I think things like meeting rooms can be kind of found elsewhere. They don't have to necessarily be at a library, but there are other things that we do need. And I think other than storage, which also would be, I think, a royal pain for the staff. I don't see this as being a positive or useful option for the library patrons.
If I may, I know I said I was going to stop talking, but we're talking about utilizing space as offsite programming space. And I would just say the library has already done that to a certain extent too, because our annual Halloween event, we've joined forces with something that the Fay School does. And so that helps us almost do outreach at Fay for that event, but it also allowed us to expand and then have better statistics on the attendance for the event. And it's not just Fay people that go, even though it's physically at Fay, our users go there too, because there was a long history of people coming into the little kids coming in the library in costume and participating in that parade event that Kim organizes. So I would just say, there are options to utilize off-site programming without maybe necessarily the library being entirely responsible for the space. But I'm saying that in that it might be easier for us to coordinate certain things depending on what the options were that were available. But we're open to working with, if our program is going to be too big for the library, we would look at bigger programming spaces. So I just want to throw that out there too.
I wanted to say a couple of things, and then I'll turn it over to you, Janet, to see what you think about it. But number one, our staff is accustomed to being cramped to the point where they don't even know they're cramped anymore, right? If you want to go and have a quiet sandwich someplace, there isn't anywhere to do it in the library. The kitchen space downstairs is so small that it's got stuff piled up in one corner that is from the cooking club, which gets used once a month. There's spaces where there's old, and Ryan said you're taking a lot of stuff to the transfer station that has accumulated over the years, but I think we're used to small, and I was very happy the DRA had looked at all these other options. And I have no opinion, except I really do not feel that it would be feasible to split away the children's room, since people are staffing it. Everyone in the library now can do the full and part-timers can do almost any other job. If someone can't come in, or if somebody has to do lunch or whatever, they can work to fill each other's roles. I can't see sectioning the staff off without hiring 2 or 3 more people into another building. You're right, Amy, it's not an annex, and it's not a branch. Those are geographical differences. This is not that. So I'm having all these thoughts going around in my head. 1, we're terribly cramped. 2, we can't split the library. 3, what's going to happen with the townhouse if you renovate it to be a partial library space, and then in 10 years we move everything out of there. It just seems like it's so interesting to reconsider the town space options, and we know we need another, maybe, what have we got, 14,000 square feet, and we need 20. We are squishing ourselves. We have stuff we could be doing that we don't even consider that we could be doing because we know we don't have the space. We do candidates night basically in the stacks, right? Every time there's a program, we have to get out all the chairs, move all the tables, bring in the chairs, break them down. It's terrible because there's no space. There's no kitchen for the cooking club. There's no place to play music if you want to have a group of coming in and playing. So we're really squeezed. I can't see splitting the library functions except maybe put the book sale in another building and put some annual storage like the chess pieces and other things that are used only in the summer that are now taking up room. Maybe just having someplace where you could leave it for 4 months or 5 months before you actually need it again. The book sale takes up a room in the library. We love the book sale. It's taking up a room, and it's is it a usable room? I don't know. The other possibility would be, since we do need more stacks, to put lower circulation stuff that we don't want to weed out and discard into another facility and have it kind of like an interlibrary loan, only it's in another part of town. We could easily hold another 2,000 books if we had another room of stacks, and we wouldn't have to, as David pointed out, discard books that we'd bought 2 years before because they are circulated, but they're not circulated enough to keep because we don't have room. So I'm wondering, we could put the historical collection maybe in another building, and our historical collection is very small because we don't have room to make it any bigger. So I'm thinking there are a lot of possibilities I could see if we had 4 more rooms, which I think would be lovely. And I'm thinking maybe we could put something there that isn't going to be used every day, but is essential to our functioning without moving a department. I'd love to have more stacks. Anyway, Jane, go ahead. I've said my piece. What?
No, you're making a lot of sense. Am I still on? Am I muted? No. Sorry, too much going on here. I agree with everything. The idea of storage hadn't occurred to me, but that's not a bad one. Or also meeting rooms, you know. The meeting rooms don't have to be in the library because you're not really using the library, but again, everybody said the same thing except I disagree with splitting up the library, but storage, yes, and meeting rooms. That's
Storage, meeting rooms, historical, book sale.
the
These
book sale.
could
Okay, sure,
the
but yeah, things
proposed-
that are only periodically
Tutoring rooms.
needed.
The proposed Woodward space would have a significant amount of meeting space added to and I think, kind of to Kim's point, I think specifying a lot more about, like, we do need to construct a survey, I think, about maybe specific to space for our users. And there's a couple things too. The one thing that hasn't come up in your comments is the teen room. So it was great after the flood that we were able to create a teen space and to utilize that. We cannot lock up the separate makerspace equipment, which was recommended as when we were going through it and purchasing that. And then the other thing, which you may not even be fully aware of, is that all of the teen fiction doesn't fit in that room. Part of it is in a hallway adjacent leading up to the room. That there's no young adult nonfiction. That's all interfiled in the adult fiction upstairs. There's no multimedia. There's no movies or audiobooks. Those are all part of the upstairs collection, right? So if you're a teen, you don't just use the teen room. If you want any of those other things that I mentioned, you got to go upstairs. And I would just say, a lot of people have Idea Labs, maker spaces as a separate add-on room that can be opened and closed depending on the needs of the users. Right now, we have all of that in one sort of multifunction space, right? We're really good at multifunction space.
So
in the
are you
library.
saying putting the Idea Lab over in Woodward, but everything else in the library building?
I'm
is-
saying that I'm presenting some of the things that we need long term. Like we built a teen room, but the teen room already isn't big enough. We utilized a space that became available in order to use that function, right?
Right.
So that is one of the things right there, is that we've already seen that if you have two groups of 2 teens in the teen room, it already feels full. But that's not, I would just say that's probably not ideal long term.
Well, I just want to say that the teen room is basically, it's a basement. The windows of the teen room are way up high because you're in a basement. I mean, again, I think I am holding out a great deal of hope for an overall library renovation that will put everything where it needs to be with the light. And if that's 10 years or 15 years down the road, I think that's what we really need. Do we switch over to put things in Woodward or the townhouse for 10 years before we get the grant rolling? That's another option. Is it temporary? Would there
Maybe.
be-
Yeah, I mean, maybe is kind of the answer to that, because I think part of it is if we're looking and we're at spatial capacity, I think we do need to think maybe of some potentially out of the box ideas. I would just say, I mean, we do not have any space for storage. I think many of you who have been on the board for a long time know that. We've had to be very creative with how things are stored. And then part of buying things is we have to think about long-term where to store them. A great example is the ukuleles that were purchased with the SCF grant. So if you guys don't know where the circulating ukuleles are located in the library, that hallway I mentioned that's outside the teen room, the very tops of those bookcases don't fit books. So we store the circulating ukuleles there.
Where's the
we literally-
telescope? Where's the telescope,
The
Ryan?
telescope is in a case behind the circulation desk. But fingers crossed, we always want the telescope to go out, because then we get that space from the telescope not being there. So I
Yes.
mean, you know.
And what about the chess set? Where's that?
It's out in the cold.
So great question. Half of them are adjacent to where the ukuleles are on that upper shelf. And then because we couldn't fit all of them, the rest are in the storage closet. And
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Yeah, and where are all the extra chairs for programs? They're in the back hall next to the fire stairs, right?
some of them are with the book sale item, to be
Yeah.
blunt. I mean, they're there. We don't normally, you would add chairs to our meeting room. We have to permanently store the extra
Right.
chairs there
know.
because we don't have another space for them.
We could keep going. I mean, just about
I know,
everything in that
yeah.
library is in the wrong place because there's no room for it. And the other part that I think we get used to is when the interlibrary loans come in, they're stuck behind the circulation desk, so that everybody working the circulation desk is banging their elbows against those giant crates that have come in from other libraries. And you get so used to it, you think this is normal, but it's not.
Janet is being so patient too. I
Janet.
didn't mean to derail us with more
My dear
space
Janet,
issues.
what are your
I
thoughts?
Well,
wanted to throw
listen.
out that out there.
It was good listening to everybody because I went through all those same thought processes. And there's a good and bad part to this. For one, we're really between a rock and a hard place. We need more space, and trying to figure out how to do that is really difficult. And I think largely is going to have to be solved by the staff in the library, because they know what they're working with and stuff. The good part of that is it's 4 years out. They first have to either tear down or renovate Neary. Where they put those kids in the meantime, I don't know. They have to do that, then move the kids out of Woodward, then do whatever they're going to do. And if we go to the townhouse, that means first they've got to move those folks down to I mean, we're at least 4 years out. And construction of an addition or whatever to our current library is at least 10 years out. They're saying it could be 20 years out. So we're talking about something that would happen in 4 years and last for probably the following 10. So there's lots of time. And I think that some of these things we'll answer for ourselves as we go along. Things will become more clear. 4 years is a long time. Although I have a feeling we're going to be sitting there 4 years saying, what happened to that?
I think 4 years, Janet, 4 years might be a conservative estimate too. I think,
Exactly.
especially if you're looking at some of what they discussed in those options in the DRA consultants, I think would require additional renovation of the existing facilities, some of which might be substantial. And we know this from doing the roof, right? And we know this from the carpeting too, is that construction projects take longer, I think, than are initially projected.
Well, it has to get approved. The town has to approve doing something to near it. Think of how long that's going to take.
Yeah, that's at least 3 town meetings, yeah.
Well, I think the most important things is that we stay an active participant in the conversations. I like that we have priority in what people are thinking about and stuff, and I think we need to stay there and make sure they know that we need space. And that we're willing to work with them, and we're willing to be flexible, we're willing to do whatever. But I don't think any of us can sit here and say, yeah, we can wait 15 years to add some space to the library. I don't think that's responsible. The other part is that, there's a lot of parts. I was thinking of, at the point where we finally get to a construction project, we're going to have to close down, if not the whole library, then significant portions of it to allow that to happen. So it would be a whole lot easier if we already have a space that we've developed that's dedicated to the library. We can work around that a little bit better. So the decisions about whether or not we make it a mini satellite operation with, around a certain function, or just a mini satellite itself, I think we've got lots of time to figure that out. I will put in a couple of plugs for moving the children's room. First of all, in Hopkinton, the children's room is on the 2nd floor, and it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful room in there with tons of windows. You see the sunset. There's a big area that they haven't designated yet that was the computer room for Woodward, or is the computer room. So that's not designated to anybody yet. There's also meeting rooms along there for tutoring or for whatever. It's really a very nice spot. And the other part is that the children's librarian is the number 2 person at the library. It's a leadership person. So if you're looking organizationally of how to set something up, that is kind of ideal, that you'd have a leadership person heading it up. Now, again, it's 4 years out. I'm not going to say I think that's the best idea. I don't know. But we've got a lot of time to think about it. I think I want to stay actively part of the conversation of what should happen, so we don't get, the leftover senior center because they decide they can't sell it and that's all that's left, that kind of thing. So it's hard not to think about all the scary negatives, but on the other hand, it's a great opportunity. But we have to think about it and plan it and research it and go to other libraries. And we have 4 years at a minimum to do that. So that's why I don't worry too much about the details. It's going to become clearer to us, I think, as we do the work, hopefully.
Good, thank you. Other thoughts? I guess we're all agreeing that something needs to be done, but we're not quite sure what it is, but we want to be part of the process with capital planning and DRA and any other consultants. And I was just really happy to see that there was some kind of over plan happening about town space, because it seems like there has been no wide picture approach to that. And frankly, there's a lot of really old buildings in this town that will be really expensive to fix. And so I guess we're going to have to be
I was
part of
also
that.
wondering whether it's possible to open up that front door to the townhouse. It would be more like an entrance the way the library has an entrance. It would be more,
Have you ever tried to use that door, Janet?
locked,
There's a
right?
yeah, they unlocked it during times during COVID over the summer, so that the staff could have another exit. There was trouble keeping the door closed. once it was opened. That's
Oh.
how old it was.
Yeah, but you know what I
That's
mean?
sort of-
It's a beautiful entrance.
It is,
From
yeah,
the outside, so.
it is.
Was there any suggestion to move the entire library to Woodward and then use the library? I know the library is deeded to be a library, but I know in the past we've talked about, what if the historical collection was kept there? Like, I mean, would that be a crazy idea to like put all of the offices that they're talking about in Woodward into the library and move the entire library into Woodward?
I wonder
I-
the same
I-
thing,
It's
Kim.
not big enough.
Yeah,
On the
that,
deed,
so
on
it
the
was,
deed, the building was given to the town with the understanding it would be a library. I don't know, they could probably work around that.
the square footage of the amount of space that could become available at Woodward and the townhouse doesn't equal out the existing square footage of the library. So the library is actually one of the larger facilities in town, believe it or not. So I do feel like we're talking a lot about the space we need and the space we need to expand. And we do get more space utilization because you have to remember a lot of these buildings did not get additions, but we did in the 80s, right? So we were able to essentially add more than double the space at
Okay.
that time.
Just
So you're
visually,
saying
I
the
thought
whole
Woodward was bigger.
Square footage of Woodward is smaller than the library?
No. The space that the DRA consultants said could become available for library utilization is less than the library is now. Does that make sense?
But
Yeah,
Kim,
5,000
take over the whole
5,000 feet
thing,
would be
right?
available.
5,000 feet is available?
That's
Well,
what,
there's also the issue if we're closed for 3 years because of a renovation, as Kim said, could we just move everything over to Woodward?
No, I guess what I think Amy was trying to say is the total square footage of Woodward smaller than what the square footage of the library is right now?
Oh, no.
No. That's Woodward is bigger than us.
Kim, you're saying about us just taking over all of Woodward kind of, right?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that was considered as an option.
There were 7 options that we listened to that night, and that, Kim, was not one of them, I have to say.
No, I'm just wondering why that wasn't an option, I guess.
I have to say, I don't know where the suggestion to move the children's room really originated from. It wasn't in our conversations with the consultants. I think what they looked at was the amount of square footage that the children's room currently has, and then the amount of square footage that was available at Woodward or the townhouse. And
Yeah.
they just looked at doing a direct swap without really thinking about the operational impact.
Right. I mean, I get that they're trying to kind of fill in the blanks, but I think for our usage, it's not just about the square footage. It's about like really usable square footage for the purposes we need. I mean, I don't know if that's something to push forward or to suggest to them as an option, or if you guys would even be interested in that spot.
The library
Just
building
giving up the current
the
location.
library building was originally deeded by Fay or whoever donated it to be
It was
specifically
Joseph Burnett, the Burnett
Burnett
family.
as a library, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be like a historical library and still be compliant with the deed.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I think part of the problem is that, as Ryan said, there was no real discussion about the true needs of the library. It was more square footage. And I think everybody functions different, but particularly offices that, people come in and pay their bills, kind of the library doesn't function like anything else that they're looking at. And I think that's what we're running up against. I mean, I agree with Janet. There's time. I just don't want us shoved into a size 7 shoe that we need a 9.5, and we're getting, a strappy pump when we really just need a good pair of sneakers. I don't, and then
it's our job to make sure that our needs and requirements and functioning is clear to everybody involved. I mean, it's up to us to communicate that. And
I
as I
worry
said,
that we're going to be put in this position, and then when it becomes time to vote at town meeting for a true expansion and to get what we really need, well,
yeah,
you've made it work. I mean, that's what's happened. Unfortunately, Ryan has done such a good job that it's like, well, it's working. Well, it's not really working. You're just not seeing. It's like, you know, the pretty swan that's gliding across the water. You're not seeing its feet going 5,000 miles an hour, and I think that's part of it. And that's part of my concern with, oh, well, we'll just do what we can. We'll just take what they'll give us and be happy with it. And I am afraid that then it's going to be a continued problem. Same with staffing. Are you going to commit in writing that you're going to give us an increase of funds for staffing, or are
need more
we going,
people,
yeah,
yeah.
or are we going to be given this space and then be like, well, yeah, but you can't increase your salary at all because we
Amy,
don't have the money.
Amy,
So-
I did have a half an hour discussion with Ken Best from DRA on some of the space challenges that the library is currently experiencing. And those were, I will say, some of the
Good.
stuff was integrated into what you guys saw in that presentation. But I don't think a half an hour conversation
Right.
was able to really capture, I think, all of the operational impact in having a secondary site, right? Because we are, quite frankly, that's kind of my job to figure out to a certain extent. So I do think that maybe it would have been helpful to have more of an overview of what the functions of the library are going into that conversation. I know that DRA has worked and given suggestions to libraries in the past. They told me that they've worked with libraries before. So, you know, I'll just say that he did. It wasn't like he didn't talk to me at all. He certainly did, and he was very receptive to that conversation and in trying to
Right.
integrate.
Yeah. It's just that library, I think part of it is we just function so different. It's hard to understand compared to other, you know, if you work with municipalities, I would assume that about 80% kind of the town functions similarly, is all I was saying. Not that they totally ignored us or didn't ask for your input. Thanks for
I might
clarifying.
also make an argument too that part of the reason why the state construction program exists is because libraries aren't often considered in townwide space needs plans, and that the needs of the library are so esoteric that they had to start a whole state construction program in order to help meet those needs, right? So, I mean, all of that is just food for thought, because you guys aren't making any final decisions now, right? It's just about thinking about all of these things. And obviously, I think, Amy, your suggestion the night of we saw the DRA presentation about polling our users about the different functionalities of the space they want to see. That is a requirement of applying for the construction money long-term. And I think that is a key factor in what we need to do as one of our next steps.
Well, and truthfully, we could get the survey back and they could all be like, oh, no big deal. I'd be happy to go up to the townhouse if we have X, Y, and Z. So, you know, we know what
could
we
be
think,
dead
we know
wrong.
what we
Yeah.
don't. So,
The other thing
Yeah.
I actually thought that splitting the library and however we do it will help us at the time we're looking for money for construction 15 years from now, because we could say we'll have some efficiencies. We'll have less need for duplicate staff. It'll be more convenient for people so that, you know, they'll have lived with this. And I mean, it's not ideal to be in two different locations. It's much better to be in one location. So
I'm
I think
wondering if
that'll
there's
help
any
us then.
if there's any library in Massachusetts that has ever had their children's room in a separate building.
I don't know.
I've looked into it, Marguerite, for the past couple of weeks, and not just in Massachusetts. I'm not aware of any library that completely separated and took their children's room out.
Yeah.
So if anybody's aware of that or finds that.
You know, the other thing that I'm finding reassuring is Marguerite and I went to look at the Hopkinton Library sometime this summer. And they talked about how incredible, because they merged with a church next door. So they had to completely move out. They went to some industrial building in an industrial park, and they were dreading it. They thought
I went to that
Yeah.
library when
And
they
they
were
were
in the
there
building.
I did too.
They were there for
I think they were there
Yeah.
3 years.
For a long time,
They didn't
yeah.
want to give
A
it
long
up.
time.
They loved
They
it
liked it.
after they got used to it. They really loved it. So you don't know in advance. You know, you can think of all the negatives and the scary things or the things that'll be really hard to work out, but sometimes you don't notice the good, you don't know the good parts until you're there. So I found that reassuring, that they went to a place, an
Yeah.
industrial park, instead of
And,
being in the
well,
center of town.
It
And they loved
wasn't like that inside though. The way it was set up was like a nice library. They had the children's room was downstairs, and
Yep.
you know, they did an excellent job of replicating, you know, what they felt would be a library. It was a lot of work, obviously, but no, it wasn't bad. I was
we would do
And they
the
were
same.
building. They did,
Yeah.
they did.
No, I have a
Hopkins-
question though, Janet.
Sure.
What did you mean there'd be efficiencies if we did go ahead and
If we're in 2 locations, yes, we have to add some additional staff, I think, for support and for whatever. At the point when we're saying, let's consolidate everything back and build an addition to the library, then we could, one of the selling points would be increased efficiencies, because we wouldn't have to have the duplicate staff.
There are so many
so we
options
could cut
in
we
this.
could cut out. Oh, yeah.
Well, there's so
15
many
years from
options in
now.
this. Can
Yes.
I say I have to leave in 3
I'll be
minutes?
dead. Okay.
I'm really sorry, but I have to be out of here at 11:15. I think Kim does too, but clearly we can talk about this next time, and we can probably talk about this for many hours. And I don't know, if you have brilliant ideas, email them to Ryan, since he's our contact point. And I think this is exciting. It is calling up the fact that we need space. We need space a lot. So there it is.
And there's just there's a lot of things we're going to put together and a lot of work we have to do the next
Yep.
couple of years. So,
Maybe time to move forward on a survey
yes.
sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Do you want trustees to work on this, or would you like some of your staff to work on
I'm
it?
going to put together some stuff and then I'm going to have you guys review it. We're not going to put out a survey without talking to you first. So
Okay.
hopefully I'll try
In
to
some
work on
cases-
something.
In some ways, it seems to make more sense if we knew when COVID was going to be over,
Yeah.
to be there.
That would help.
We've been
That would be,
operating.
that would be
Yeah, does
handy,
anyone know?
yes.
No, but I
Can they-
mean, because we've been operating so crazy, which is another vote for being able to handle any changes coming.
I mean,
up.
one
Well,
of the
that's
things that
actually
we
in our
do,
disadvantage because we've handled this so well. The COVID and the curbside and the transitioning back in and all the reconstruction. And the community thinks you can do anything, so that's a
I
bad
mean,
thing.
maybe think about though, I mean, we do earmark space upstairs for programs. Maybe we need to rethink that. Maybe long-term, we need to rethink the function of the Eaton room as a meeting room. That's something I'm thinking about bringing to you guys. Maybe a part of what we did with the teen room was reclaim some of that like overflow book sale storage room as a space for collections. Maybe we need to rethink the existing space in the library a little bit too. And maybe that's one of the things we can do right now. So there's a couple different ways we can go, but you're right. We have to end the meeting because people have to go and we can talk
Yes.
about this for hours. So
Okay, so this was completely unresolved, but very interesting. Except maybe we need to think about doing a survey sooner rather than later, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion.
moved.
Okay, that's David and Amy. Are you going to second?
Second.
Okay, and then okay, Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Ekberg.
Aye.
Trustee Landry. Aye. Trustee Maney.
Aye.
Trustee Reagan.
Aye.
Trustee Yasdani.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. The meeting is adjourned. It is 4:45 p.m. Okay? Thanks.
Okay.
Have a
Thanks.
good night. Stay safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
bye, everybody. How's your foot, Shane?
Ryan, are you still there?
Yeah.
You asked for volunteers before for editing. I raised my hand.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking of you in particular, but I didn't want to single you out. So
Well, no, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna be one of my first people. So
Okay.
I'm gonna review what Mariana has sent me this week, and then
Okay.
I might even have you look at an early draft, if that's
Okay.
okay. All right,
Don't wait for me to stumble in. I mean, don't feel you can't just pick up the phone and say, come on over, okay?
yeah, I'm gonna take you up on that, I think. So,
Okay, okay, good.
All right,
All right,
bye.
good luck tomorrow.